Hello and welcome to the July 13th edition of Speedway Digest, Thursday Night Thunder, the most hardcore motorsports program on the internet. This is episode 257 of the series. I'm your host, Jason Sinclair, and tonight on the program we'll be celebrating 9 years on the air. Can you believe it? We'll be talking about a little NASCAR, maybe a little IndyCar, whatever other motorsports pops into the conversation. Tonight's guest is Jason Pribyl. Jason Pribyl, age 18 of Glenview, Illinois, has over a decade of racing experience, racing a variety of karts, cars, and trucks, and tracks as well. He started racing karts at the age of 6 and began road racing karts on car tracks at the age of 7. Jason's first auto race was in 2020 in a Rice Race Prep F1600. In 2021, he ran a full season of Formula Enterprise 2, winning the SCCA Majors Northern Conference and finished 10th in that season's SCCA runoffs. Jason started the 2022 season testing with USF Juniors, but raced the Specs MS5 Challenge Series. He started the 2023 season with USF 2000 testing and a weekend of Spec Race Ford 3. Currently running a full FCCA Majors Champion campaign in Spec Racer Ford, Jason has made it for now a one-off appearance in FRP F1600, where he took second in his first race back after 3 years. We're now very pleased to welcome Jason to the program. Hello, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm pretty happy to be back, talk about the weekend and everything.
How was the race in the Formula car? How was it? It looks really good, but did it drive well?
Oh yeah. It was weird to get back into those cars. They're just crazy fast, and the Miguels that I was driving, last time I drove them, I had trouble fitting in them because they're just so small. But we got it really fit, really worked out this second time. But yeah, I mean they're a blast to drive. They're so much more like go-karts than I could have imagined any car to be. Smooth. Obviously, Greg and his team, they made an awesomely fast car. We made some choices that the other teams didn't seem to follow, but they benefited us in the end, and it was a lot of fun to drive those things.
I know you've had a quite a long and varied racing journey. Can you tell us a little bit more about how it began and where you got to where you are now?
Yeah. So, we're for about 10 years we ran karts, mostly based on the fact that I wasn't old enough to drive a car. I got my SCCA license at 14. My first race, we did the Lucas Oil School of Racing twice, and then I did a lapping day in a Spec Miata, but I hadn't ever raced anything up until the F1600 with Greg. And then obviously the season after we raced FE2, which was sort of our throw into, a downforce car. It was originally supposed to be a Spec Racer Ford, and things just worked out a little weird. Year after, there was some difficulty with our USF Juniors program, so we moved to Spec MX5 as a little bit of a backup. But in all honesty, that's a good destination, or not destination series, but it's a good route for a lot of kids to take. Obviously, it wasn't for me. I didn't stick around for the next season or move up. We did Spec Racer Ford at the end of the season. The first ever time I sat in that car was to go out for qualifying, and I qualified third out of 20. And we decided that was kind of the car to be in for the next season, just given the money we had for racing.
What's your greatest racing memory so far?
As of now, there's been so many. It's changed a lot, but most recently, I think being able to drive the USF 2000 at the end of the season last year, which wasn't necessarily something I had in plan probably about halfway through the season. It was just came up. We sent some stuff out to Turn 3. They trusted me with their car, and it was just probably the best experience I've ever had in a race car up until this point. It was just amazing in every way. I got to race at Indy. in a car that was fast and competitive, and it looked great. It felt great. I mean, everything was perfect that weekend.
Of all the racing series out there, which one do you follow the most? I know that in the past you've talked a little bit about sports car racing and your chance of getting into that in the future. What is that still one of your top ones, or have you changed a little bit now?
Yeah, I've always loved Le Mans. It's still one of my favorite things to watch, especially with how great it's been lately. With both LMDH and hypercar becoming so popular. I know Lamborghini released theirs today, and it looks like a
Yeah.
beautiful car. I can't wait to see it compete. So I've obviously been following that still. I've been really getting into Formula One lately. It's tough because obviously Red Bull is doing so well, but I mean, good on them. They built the fastest car. They deserve to win the races, But no, I mean, it's F1, Le Mans, WEC, IMSA, IndyCar. If I'm not racing, I'm watching it. So, I'm following everything.
Growing up, who was your racing idol?
I've had a few over the years. I think, really when I was at the age where idols mattered to me the most, actually my favorite driver was Carl Edwards in NASCAR. He had the same number as my kid kart. I was number 99 when I first started racing. It was a blue car even. And Carl was number 99 in, I think it was the Fast and All car. But just by number alone, and I found out later that he was an incredible person, and so I was even happier to be supporting him.
So when you win the next big race, you're going to be doing a backflip out the window of your car.
Ooh, I'll leave that one to him. It's yeah, I'm not much of an acrobatics type of person. I like to sit down.
Yeah. Well, let's see if my co-host Mykkal Mulalley-Kapalo is able to connect again. I know it looks like she's having some issues, but if she is able to connect, hopefully she can ask you a few questions as well. If not, I'll go ahead and get her questions too. Let's give her a second.
Okay, am I connected?
Yep.
Oh,
It looks like you are now. Yeah.
oh, good. Okay, so my first question for you this evening, for the listeners who need a little refresher, can you tell us a little bit more about the SCCA?
Yeah, so the SCCA, essentially, it's like the center of amateur motorsports in the country. You can't find anything else quite like it. There's feeder series for different things, but SCCA is kind of where drivers are developed. There's got to be over 20 classes that you can run. The most competitive being Spec Miata, Spec Racer Ford, Formula Enterprise, things like that. So the SCCA has a crazy amount of classes. They have 3 spec classes, which is like as I mentioned, Spec Miata, Spec Racer Ford, and Formula Enterprise. And those happen to be their most competitive classes. But it's a road racing. They have a bunch of different levels all around the country. And they, yeah.
So, that's interesting. I didn't know that SCCA was strictly road racing, so I just learned something new too. But how do the cars that you race right now compare to the karts and stuff that you started your racing career off in, essentially?
Yeah. It's in essence, like in a deeper level, the cars I'm racing right now are very much momentum based cars. They're Spec Racer Fords. They have little to no downforce. I mean, they're built like a wedge, so obviously you're going to have a little bit. But I think it's 130 horsepower, 1,500 pounds. So really, they're not very powerful. So the idea of momentum driving, which I did in L206 when I raced karts, it still kind of holds the same. And then the racing style, I raced when I did road racing. We raced animals, and they were trading positions on the straightaway, bump drafting, stuff like that. So that's all the same as well. So the basic structure of driving and racing in this class is actually very similar to the karts I've done. There's a bit of give and take when it comes to braking, obviously shifting and stuff like that you really develop as a driver only by driving those cars. That's something I've learned over the years. I'm able to hop into cars and drive them because of how many I've driven now. I'd say I'm better in cars than I was in karts, and so it feels a little bit more comfortable than the karts I drove. But I mean, really, to a basic level, they're very much the same.
So my next question, this one might be kind of a hard one, but what intrigues you the most about auto racing?
Yeah, I saw this one. I was thinking about it quite a bit. What I love about racing, and this is maybe more towards the Formula car aspect, but maybe that's just because I don't very much know about sports cars, driving them at least, is just being able to show off what the human mind can actually do. You know, at mind-bending speeds, the amount of precision and the amount of control you have over a giant, box of carbon fiber or metal with an absurd amount of horsepower. It's just one of the most beautiful things to me. I love being able to kind of wield a beast in that sense. And that's what I love about at least being a driver. That's what I love the most about auto racing.
So I think I might know the answer to this, but I'm not sure. Are you a dirt track person or are you a pavement person? Which kind of racing do you prefer?
I haven't really noted dirt track too much. I know I've done it a little bit in iRacing and stuff, and I've always wanted to do rally, which is both dirt and pavement. But yeah, I mean, I would say, given my experience, I'm a bit more of a pavement person, because if I'm on the dirt, then I'm doing something wrong.
Okay, and then so when you pull in to the track for a busy weekend, what is one of the first things that you notice like immediately about that track?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on if it's a track I've been to or not. But when it comes to a busy weekend, I'm, driving through the paddock looking for my tent, but I'm always like looking out for my competitors, the people I know that are fast. But besides that, I kind of try to keep it cool, because the more you look at your competitors, the more you might see them as formidable. Busy race weekends obviously mean a deeper field in both quality and quantity. So it's mostly just focusing on getting my bearings, getting used to the environment, and going from there.
Well, my final question for you this evening, if you could give any piece of advice to someone looking to get started in this wonderful sport, what advice would that be?
Yeah, I think especially as you move up into trying to make a career out of this, which I think a lot of people do very early on, at least, is just to be able to talk to as many people as possible and be able to, networking is an easy way to say it, but there's more to networking than just knowing people and having a bunch of contacts. You need to build relationships on a very personal level. You need to, people need to like you. And so, what's more than just talking to people, but, interacting with them on a personal level is very important. So yeah, just like networking and being able to get advice and take advice from the people that you know.
I was able to go out to the movies this past weekend, watch the new Indiana Jones movie, and one of the things that was attached to that, one of the trailers, was the new trailer for the movie Gran Turismo, where it talks a little bit about the competition they had related to the Gran Turismo video game and how they actually put a few drivers in real cars in the real world. Do you think that iRacing is really that good? Do you think it's actually good enough that people are able to take their online experience and transfer it directly to the track? Do you think that's a realistic thing, and do you think that'll be the way that people get more involved in racing in the future?
I definitely think in the past years it's been more prominent. I think one of the easiest examples is Max Esterson, who just went into F3. He started off in iRacing, and his first time in a car was in 2016 in Formula or in F1600. So that's a great example. I know a few others pretty similar to him that started in the same way. I think sim racing is very touch and go. I believe that you can't necessarily get a lot of the realism and a lot of the feel out of it, but that's really up to the person. It's up to what you're trying to get out of sim racing. For me, I tend to have a little bit of a lower view on it just because I have the experience in a car. And when I get into iRacing or something and I can't feel every little thing, I just kind of get frustrated. But I do think it is, while it may not be the way forward, it may not be the future, it will always be part of something. And it will always be part of motorsports.
Cool. We Michael and I had a little bit of a discussion about the offline about the race, the NASCAR race in Chicago. How do you feel that they did in the road course there in Chicago? I know the weather was really really bad for that race, but do you think that'll change the nature of motorsports, especially for NASCAR going into the future?
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. Being so close to it, obviously, I was somewhat in depth with it. Obviously, didn't go. I thought they did. I was pleasantly surprised at how they did this time around. There was only one traffic jam, and it's something that NASCAR needs to look forward to. Maybe I felt that it was a bit of a risk doing their first ever street course on a untested street track, and I think the like that fact that it was an untested street course did not help them. I know there was flooding a lot there, and that's one of the reasons why they were delayed so long. And that's something they should work on, obviously. But overall, I know NASCAR is trying to move towards this sort of V8 supercars like style while maintaining their oval and maintaining their history, and so I think it's a step in the right direction, at least from my perspective. Not really having much oval experience, or I guess for lack of a better word, like less respect for it, just because I don't know it as well.
A final question for you this evening. You mentioned Formula One is one of your bigger interests now. How do you feel about Max Verstappen seemingly being unstoppable this season? Do you think that's making the series better? Or do you think in the long run it might not be a very good thing for the sport?
I think it's I personally I have no problem with it. This is exactly how Formula One has been always, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And not that that's a bad thing. I think whatever team did the best working on their car deserves to be the most successful. And it's not even that like Red Bull is so much further ahead. I believe they are further ahead, but you also have to respect Max Verstappen as a driver. I mean, he's unlike anyone else. I'm sitting here now 18. Max Verstappen was younger than me when he first got into a Formula One car. Like, that to me is absurd, right? And he's just gone nothing but upwards since then. It's interesting. I don't know the source of this, but I have heard that he's getting a little bored of winning and has talked about moving away from Formula One to find a more like something more challenging, which is a little bit crazy to hear. Maybe they need to put him in AlphaTauri for a bit of a challenge, but I think it's nothing but good for the sport, because what it is it gives everyone a rabbit to chase, and that's, I think, what people need. I don't think the battles would be as interesting. Like what happened in 2021 with Hamilton and Verstappen, I feel like we would see that more than anything else if we had more teams battling in the same way that people think they want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a way of looking at it. I don't know. I think that it's really cool to see how they do that, but I kind of agree with the rumor there about Verstappen. I think that after a while he seems like if he's only winning if he just jumps out ahead, then it's not as exciting for him. It saves everything that happened with Hamilton a few years ago, where he was either in the lead or he was out of the race, and it's just the nature of the sport. I think they either do really really well or they're not doing well at all. And it's kind of it's something interesting to watch. It gives people something to talk about anyway.
Yeah, it's something that sets the sport apart from anything else. I mean, the motorsports world is moving so much closer to spec racing now that I feel like there's a little bit less respect for
Mhm.
manufacturers. I know you have like it's Honda and Chevy in IndyCar, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you've got Ford, Toyota, and Chevy again in, or I guess it's Mustang, right? Sorry, I'm a little mixed up with my manufacturers, but that's sort of
Mhm.
exactly my point. Is you've got different manufacturers making the same cars. It's a little bit redundant, and I think Formula One does a great job of bringing that to light more than anything else.
Mhm. Yeah, it's definitely Formula One is always Formula One, and it's going to be for at least the time being is the top thing. I know in the future they're going to have to make some tough choices. I think that's part of what the deal with Formula E is to give them options for the future. Um, I said it was my last question, but I got one more. How do you think that e racing will change the sport? Because the that's definitely the way it's going with hybrids and with fully electric cars.
Yeah, no, I'm totally looking forward to IndyCar moving to hybrid next year. That's one of
Mm-hmm.
the main talking points, at least in the hybrid aspect of it. I don't think people will go to the extreme of electric racing in every part of motorsport. But I mean, I would agree hybrid's the way to go.
Yeah.
It's just more economical. It's frankly it is more budget friendly in the long run, and it'll keep motorsport around that much longer. I know they're getting people are getting hounded for the impact it has in the environment, and motorsports is one of the first places where you see development for consumer cars. Hybrid systems really came around in race cars before they came around in consumer cars, and I mean that's where it's tested. And so I have no problem with it. I mean, obviously, I miss the Can-Am days, or all sorts of big bore engines and whatnot. But at the end of the day, if the cars are faster, then I'm happier.
Well, once again, we'd like to thank you very much for coming on the show tonight. I know you've got a lot of things going on in the next few months with your different opportunities, and we'd like to see how your season goes next year. Hopefully, you have some great news for next season, and we look forward to talking to you in the future.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. We're working on some big things. Hopefully, this next season. Talking to some people, uh, and we'll certainly let you know when they happen.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. Have a great night.
Yep. You too.
Once again, that was Jason Pribyl, who's an up and coming racer in the SCCA as well as other series. Races in the Spec Racer Ford series. He's races in the FRP F1600. He's got a bunch of different ideas for the future, and it'll be cool to see how that goes. Are you a race car driver, crew chief, pit member, track owner? Maybe you're just a huge fan of the sport. Contact us to get your spot on the show. After all, you're here for 15 minutes of fame, and we'd love to hear from you. So, what's the next big race you're going to be heading out to there in the Pacific Northwest? What's your next big racing adventure out there?
I'm not, excuse me. I'm not really sure. I know that there's a few races I would like to go to. I think last weekend they had a pretty cool race that I would have liked to have gone to, but that one's obviously in the past now. But I keep missing all of these cool races, and I gotta tell you, I'm getting tired of missing them. So I'm really gonna start doing my best to go to more, because I've missed too many that sounded extra cool. So I just need to start going. I just need to start going.
That's it. And we've got a great opportunity over here. We're going to be talking with Catherine Legg shortly about her experiences in gradient racing. I got an email about that, so that'll be pretty cool. They've got a new local sponsor based in North Palm Beach, so that's not very far from here. Going to be able to see how that goes. Might even do some some test driving of some of the equipment they've got there, which would be pretty awesome. We'll see how that works itself out. But again, that's our next big adventure here. I'm not sure whether we're going to be publishing much about that on SpeedwayDigest.com, but we will try, and we will definitely have Captain Leg on as a future guest here. Now, I did allude to the fact we're going to have a celebrity guest sometime in the future. Unfortunately, I have not heard back from their PR people except for a couple of times. So we're going to go ahead and think about that for next time. Unfortunately, he didn't get back to me. But they did reach out to me a couple of times. It just sort of fell by the wayside. As I stated, we are celebrating our 9th year on the air. We started this show shortly, I think it was just before the 4th of July in 2014. So we didn't really pick up much until 2015. That was the first real big year. 2014, we got our start, and we're puddling along just as we always have. It seems like we have some ups and downs, as always, but one of the big things I'm happy and proud about for this show is the fact that we are now able to be found on a whole lot of streaming applications, including the Odyssey app, as well as the iHeartRadio app. So if you listen to podcasts or that sort of thing on your phone, or you listen in your car, be sure to look for those. They're available on Android Auto, as well as on Apple CarPlay. So when you've got a big car trip going on, or you're just sort of piddling around town, be sure to tune in to the Speedway Digest Radio Network. It's going to be there's not really a lot of racing going on down here. It's just too darn hot. It's averaging above 100 degrees, ambient temperature in the upper 90s. So that just makes that a little more insane. That, and we really don't have as many racetracks as we used to. Palm Beach International, I did hear from them again. But because there's always the chance Palm Beach International Raceway will turn to a racetrack again. And I don't think that's going to happen. Realistically, I don't think it's going to happen. Everybody's hoping it will, but I don't think it will. But if it does, and if they get more news about it, I will go ahead and let you guys know, because they did reach out to me again about the proposal, because they really wanted to turn into a warehouse district, and now they're not as serious about that. But they do have a lot of stuff that they need to take care of, and I think some of the stuff they're trying to push on about the upgrades to the facility there are just, they're not smart, because the facility has been open for nearly 50 years as a racetrack that hosted not only the SCCA, but NHRA, IHRA, all sorts of racing series. It hosted the Superbikes, World Superbike, as well as the Moto GTs. And they did some changes, but now they're talking about way too much stuff. I think the stuff they're talking about, the muck removal and that sort of thing, it's just an excuse to keep the argument going about the future of Palm Beach International Raceway. I don't think it'll come back. It would be great if it did, but I don't think it will. I think what we can hope for at the best is to maintain and keep Homestead International Speedway, Homestead Miami Speedway there going. But even in Homestead, if you've ever gone down there, you'll notice that every year the houses get closer and closer to the track. The buffer zone of agricultural area around the facility gets smaller and smaller, and nobody really wants to live next to a large, loud racing facility. So that's kind of the problem down here. Always has been. But we'll see how that goes. As I stated, we've always got more people reaching out to us to try and get information and to try and determine if they're going to want to be on the show or want to have stuff done, articles and features on SpeedwayDigest.com. Speaking of that, I'm going to go ahead and probably do some more stuff on Speedway Digest this weekend, either tomorrow, more than likely on Sunday, because we do have an event on Saturday. For those of you who are local, fans of South Florida, if you will, be sure to check out information about the Summit Run Community Yard Sale. We've got a huge yard sale here at the community on Saturday morning from 8 to 2. So be sure to check that out. Going to be selling a bunch of interesting things. Got some interesting people there. Tried to get some Halloween-related stuff going on, but it's a little too early for that. Not much, because Halloween is definitely coming. But it's a little too early for that, so we'll see how that goes. But it should be a great sale. Should be fun. Do you have any big, exciting weekend plans on your end?
We are just going to try to survive this desert heat over here. It's very dry and it's hot and summer's just getting started and I'm already complaining.
Yeah, it's always summertime down here. It seems like it's either hot or really really hot. I think right now it's just in a really really hot level. Like I said, it was 91 degrees at 7:30 this morning, so that's a little too warm. And when that sort of thing happens, we end up with the sort of thunderstorms we've got tonight, where it just rains and blows and lightning striking every 15 seconds. So at least it's let up now, but it's definitely stormy, definitely nasty out there, and probably be about the same tomorrow. Welcome to summer in South Florida. But for those of you who are interested, I'm going to have some amazing stuff going on here. Speedway Digest, great stories, great articles coming up. As I stated, the one about Catherine Legg and her team, Radiant Racing, that'll be coming out this weekend. They did have their new sponsor starting last weekend, and as I stated, I'm going to try and do a little bit of stuff with the new sponsor as well as Radiant Racing. We'll see how that goes. Be sure to check out past episodes of Thursday Night Thunder as well as the other shows on the Speedway Digest Radio Network at speedwaydigest.podbean.com. You can also check out the show on Facebook by searching for Speedway Digest Thursday Night Thunder in the search bar or simply by going to facebook.com/SD Thursday Night Thunder. Also, I invite you to read all the articles covering all aspects of motorsports at speedwaydigest.com. I've got some great stuff in the racing news section. I posted a bunch of stuff last weekend. I posted quite a bit this weekend too. I've been trying to edit a little bit because, as I stated, I don't really have as much time to devote to that right now. So it's sort of overviews. Some of it is as much live stuff as I can get as far as qualifying and that sort of stuff. But if that's not timely anymore, I haven't been posting that. I've just been posting the race results and that sort of thing. So be sure to check that out. Racing news section, speedwaydigest.com. In addition, if you're a fan of South Florida and who isn't, be sure to check out the latest news and information about our slice of paradise at my blog site, For Warplum's Fantastic Finds. It can be found on Facebook, Twitter, and by heading to For Warplum's Fantastic Finds. That's FABORPLUMBS, fantasticfinds.wordpress.com.
Thank you for listening, and we look forward to seeing you again next week in the Thunderdome as we discuss the major issues in the world of modern auto racing.
Have a great night, and thanks again.